Okay, so I'm doing this little Unity spline experiment. This blue line is a spline, and what it's doing here is flying a projectile from a portal um, towards the user. What this looks like is, let's see how long this takes to. What this looks like is that it's sort of a boxing game where you'd every 5 seconds. You do this to the beat, whatever. It doesn't matter. So the spline though is this blue line, and what that allows you to do is in a script. Um, so we're just doing some. So it's got a public field for the spline, which just means that in the prefab that sort of follows the target prefab follows. It's got a reference to that spline, and then just validates that it's there. That's no big deal. But then what this spline allows you to do is essentially interpolate along its position. So we're basically saying that t is this incrementing variable that goes up with time delta time. So it's going from 0 to up via a speed, and the speed is just a constant. We're going at a third of time delta time, and that yields the speed of that object. So we're interpolating from 0 to 1 along the length of that spline, and we're writing to position. So position is just a triple, and then we're saying that the position of this target moves along that spline, and that's what it allows you to do. Now you could easily imagine not using a spline. You could use any kind of function and do kind of the same thing. But when you draw splines, I don't want to mess up my project, but you do create. Let's see. Let me see if I can recapitulate this. Create spline. So you get spline from package manager. Unity registry, splines. That's the package. It's a Unity package. Install that, and that gives you create spline. And then the one I know how to do is this draw splines tool, which just gives you a spline, and you hit return to terminate it, and then you can move anything along that path. So that's basically my demo. I might drop into VR in a second and just show what this game sort of looks like in VR. I may not. If it's not here, it's not here. This is another just quick video on the same project. This is more of a recall note, which is essentially this target, right, that flies along this spline path has a reference to a spline prefab, and that's right here. So one of the things I found myself wanting to do was modify the position and rotation of this spline. So essentially what I did, the way to do this, what I learned about was essentially updating a prefab, sort of a basic thing. But if I delete this game object and I drag the prefab in here, so we're reset to back to where we were. Like, let's say I want to then rotate this so that it's flying more at the player's. Let me just play this so we have a reference for what we're talking about. If I want to rotate that spline so that the target is coming in a little bit lower, right? This target is kind of coming in more down here like a body punch or whatever. What I would do is I would rotate the thing in the scene graph or in the hierarchy. I'm not sure what the terminology is. Like that. But then the question is, this spline, so this rotation is now 0.3, 93, 4.7. This rotation is 0.3, 93, 5, right? So it's a different rotation. So what you want to do is click the thing in the scene graph, right-click rotation, and apply it to prefab, right? So now I can actually essentially delete this, and then I can play the game again. And now it's coming in slightly lower. Let me just make that more dramatic so that we can actually see it. So again, I'm taking the prefab, I'm dragging it into the scene. I'm bringing it down. So this is the XR origin. This should be the head. So this is this blue line is where the spline is coming in from. So I've rotated it down. We can see that probably if we drag, let's not confuse things. So anyway, update apply to prefab spline, apply to prefab, and then let's see if that did what we wanted it to do. Yeah, see, now that's coming in more like a punch to the quadricep or something. So the key there is essentially when you have another object. So this target is following the spline in its script, and what you don't do is drag the game object into the prefab because that won't persist. You drag the prefab as a reference, and so then when you want, again, just recapitulating, when you want to change something about this prefab, you drag it into the scene, you update it, and then you apply. There's no application now because it hasn't changed, but you apply it. And that's kind of a more useful workflow than what I was doing before, which is essentially, deleting things, recreating prefabs, reforming references is no good. So you basically want this type of workflow.